Welcome, everyone. Just give them another moment. We had about 15 people signed up, so I just want to give people a chance to congregate and come in. Yeah, a couple more people are coming in. So if you feel uncomfortable messaging the entire group, you can also message me privately. So there is in the icon in the chat box below, it says to everyone. But if you'd like to do it privately, you can just do it to me. If you don't want to share it with the group, that's fine. Okay, beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Judy. I appreciate that. Thank you. Anyone else? For those of you who are just joining, if you could just share with us in the chat box why you're here or what you're looking to get out of today's talk. Just share that so I make sure that I do touch on that. And just so you know, I will be recording this session. So if you feel uncomfortable having your screen open with your face on it, feel free just to block your video. I do respect that. Okay. Okay, no problem. Thank you for sharing that, Kathy. Okay, natural products. Okay, I will be touching on that. Of course, good skin. Okay, so I'll put a little more emphasis on that. Hi, Mary. Thank you for joining us. Hi, David. Maintaining habits to feel healthier and slow the aging process. Learning how to help my husband. Okay, beautiful. Okay, that may not be a direct topic, but I know that some of the things that we are focusing on, Mirna will actually support that. So hopefully he's listening on with you. Okay, so I think that's good. I think, you know, we have a good group here. If there's some other people that kind of come in along the way, that's fine. So I like to, so for those of you who don't know me, hi, Christine. Okay, beautiful. So memory support and clear thinking. So what I'd like to do with each of my calls is just to start in first with a breathing exercise. I'm going to be muting everyone. And for those of you who just joined us, I am going to be recording. So if you want to black out your screen because you're uncomfortable with that, you know, that's fine. I won't be insulted. I do like to see your beautiful faces smiling or interacting. So it's nice for me to have that feedback. But if I don't have that, I understand that. So let's start with a grounding exercise. I'm sure that we're all coming from something, and we probably just want to kind of leave that behind us. I'm going to just mute everybody. Asking over to me. Okay, beautiful. So if you're in your car, please, of course, do not shut your eyes, but just take a couple of moments to turn your attention inward. Maybe shut your eyes if you're not driving. Allow the breath to settle into your nasal passages. Allow the breath to flow in. Allow yourself to settle into the space around you as you draw the breath in. Feel the breath flow in and through your body, and exhale. Breathe in again. Maybe this time drawing the shoulders up towards your ears. And as you exhale, allowing your shoulders to rest down on your back. As you exhale, breathe in once again, drawing in positive energy, finding ease in your body, relaxation in your jaw and your face. And exhale. Take one more breath in and release. And when you're ready, come back to the community of support that we have here. Open your eyes and feel supported, not only by me, but those of you who are here with us today. Beautiful. So for those of you who don't know me, because I know there are some new faces here, welcome. My name is Yvette Desai. I'm an integrative health coach. I'm a yoga instructor and also the author of Relaunch Your Life Force. It's an international best-selling book on Amazon, so feel free to purchase that. Some of the things and tools that I will be discussing today are mentioned in that book. It was written a few years ago. I feel a new one coming on. with some of the things that I have adopted and the ways that I am actually living. So that is a tool that you can always feel free to use. So today's talk is on aging and aging with grace, and finding the tools to help you maneuver through the different stages of your life. So when I put this presentation together, it was funny. I was walking earlier today with my dog and came across a gentleman who's a friend who our dogs sometimes play together. And I told him I was giving this workshop. And I said, "Oh, I'm giving a workshop on aging with grace." And he said, "Oh, is that actually possible?" So I thought that was kind of funny because I do think it's possible, and I invited him to participate, but he's not here, unfortunately. But so all of you, I'm assuming here, do feel that that is a possibility. So when you think of aging, I'd like you to share with me in the chat box, and we can also open this. I can, if you want to unmute and share with us. When you think of aging, what do you actually think of? Or, maybe not aging, maybe thinking of just moving to the next decade. What do you think of? What thoughts come to mind? Don't be shy. It's an interactive. This is a workshop, so there's a little bit of interaction there. You can unmute if you'd like. Okay, great. Lack of mobility. Yep. Slower ability to respond, move, act. More aches and pains. Yes. Beautiful brain. Yep. Hot flashes too. Yes. Hormonal changes. Brain fog. Okay, beautiful. Thank you. So, yes, definitely. So, and a lot of what we're talking about here are things that we assume that as we age, these are going to happen. But there is positive things. I mean, these are some of the negative things. I think a lot of times when we think of, yes, less mental sharpness, beautiful. So when we think about things, we think about when we age that we're going to maybe even have wrinkles, saggy skin, we're unable to move, our memory is lost. We're not going to be able to do basically what it's about is, we think that we're not going to be able to move and do the things that we want to. But what I want to encourage you to think about is that we can change our mindset about how we think about this. It can be positive because when I think about aging and I think about the decades of life that I've been through and the wisdom that I have and the things that I've changed and the power that I have within myself to create those changes, I get excited about getting older. I know that there's the physical things, but a lot of that are boundaries and assumptions that society has actually put around us to think that way. I think about evolving and I think about growing and continuing to learn and maybe doing different things in my life that I might not have been able to. Maybe some of you have children and you have not been able to do certain things, but now maybe they're getting a little bit older, so you have a little bit more freedom in your life. Maybe you don't have children and maybe you're looking into the next day to have children. So your life will be changing in a different way. And, having hormonal changes and memory changes and aches and pains, those are things that we can actually influence because science actually shows us that we can, with different lifestyle changes and food changes in our body, we can actually change the expression of 90% of our genes, which is pretty amazing if you think about it. So when I look back to like my 20s and my 30s, I think about, even my teens, and I see my teenagers now, they think that they're going to live forever. You think that the way that we lived and the food that we ate, that we can sustain that, and that the stage in our life that we just feel good enough that we're going to be okay. We're going to live forever. And unfortunately, some of us, unless we've had instances where we've had to deal with health issues or other people in our life that we might have had to care for, or we are confronted by death at an early age by a relative or a friend, we may not come to that experience where we need to make different lifestyle changes. I know, for instance, my sister, she had to come to terms in her early 30s that she had to make some extreme changes in her life. She had been suffering from IBS for many years, and then she decided that she wanted to start a family. And she dealt with a lot of infertility issues. So at that stage in her life, she realized that she had to change the way that she was eating, the things that she was, how she was living, and reducing her stress, and change the foods to really level out her hormones and allow her body to be prepared for pregnancy and to start a family. I know for me personally, it was when I hit my 40s, and I'll tell you a little bit more about my story later. But when I was in my 40s, it was really when I had to deal with thyroid issues, osteoarthritis, and adrenal fatigue. And we're raised in a society where it's push, 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 go, 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 and I was raised that way. So I pushed through everything, and it was really to my detriment. And I decided to choose complementary modalities, which is fine, but not everyone has, that option. So I had to make that decision in my life, to make those lifestyle changes and those food changes in my life, to kind of make it into my next level of life. So I didn't have to suffer with those aches and pains and the memory loss and the memory fog and the weight gain that might have come from, having thyroid issues or adrenal fatigue and not being able to get out of bed. I again had to deal with this in my 50s when my mom passed away. I had to deal with some of the ancestral diseases that we had in our life. She died of cancer, of pancreatic cancer. And so I realized that if I didn't want to have the same kind of issues, that I had to readdress what were my lifestyle issues. I had to reassess how much sugar I was intaking, how much alcohol I was taking. So it's the different stages in our life. And I'm sure each of you have had to confront different issues in your life, maybe physical, maybe mental, psychological issues, maybe caring for a parent or a sick relative, or maybe even a child. And you realize, okay, maybe it's now for me to, maybe I don't want to take pharmaceutical drugs. Maybe I don't want to have surgery. Maybe there's other things that I can do to help sustain my way going forward. So what I really want you to understand is that with each decade that we have in our life, that we have different wisdom, different power, and adjustments in our life that we can continue to help us evolve and propel forward. So unfortunately, the majority of deaths in our life are, in this 21st century now, are as a result of chronic disease, with the exception now of COVID. Unfortunately, there's a little bit more acute disease happening as a result of the pandemic. But more traditional disease is as a result of chronic disease. And this is disease that's happened and built up as a result of the inflammation that's happened in our body over time. And those things are very controllable. So why can we not look at life and say, well, I want to prevent this before it actually happens to us? So when I come and speak to you, it's because I know that I personally have been through these things with myself, my family, and even clients that I've worked with, that I've supported them through helping to either prevent or come to this point in their life where they can begin to change this. So I did a poll on my Facebook peeps, and that's one of the reasons why I've come to you with this particular, and also people who are part of my newsletter, of what they wanted to see in terms of workshops. And the first one we did was on rhythmic eating. That was a couple of weeks ago, and the second one was on aging. So that's why I'm bringing you this talk today. I know that many of you want to be able to revisit that energy that you had in your 20s and your 30s. So I'm going to just open this up to share my screen because I have a presentation that I'd like to share with you. I'll go through this, just bear with me. And go through this. I've introduced myself. We talked about aging. So let's talk about, I did entitle this presentation, Aging with Grace. So I chose this because of the acronym GRACE, G-R-A-C-E. And, so as we go through this presentation, I want you to keep a few things in mind. And these are themes, those of you who have worked with me either through yoga or as a client or any kind of the workshops or things that I've done, one of the things I think you'll understand is that, I like to have themes through the things that I work with and the things that I do. So the theme that's running through this, and I'd like you to keep through in the back of your mind, is that of grace. So we think about gratitude in our life. And those are the things that we're really thankful for, that we can be present for. What are the things about your life, the actions, the family, the friends that you have, that you can really be present with and really be appreciative of? It's things that we have in life that are really important to us. And these are the things that allow us to be gracious in our life. Resilience. Resilience is, it can come from mental resilience, personal resilience, or physical resilience. And personal resilience, sometimes we can get through those things. Sometimes we have the supportive people around us to get through those things. But sometimes there's that physical resilience that's a little bit harder to kind of work through. And by physical resilience, what I'm talking about is those aches and pains that you might be experiencing. When, our society, as I mentioned before, is one where we're really taught to push through things. And, even if you're sick, you're taught, okay, let's work through this. We're going to get through this. But sometimes that can work through to our detriment. And sometimes it's important for us to slow down. And so we need the support of others or other ways of dealing with so that we can cope through this. And usually, sometimes listening to our inner voice and realizing, we're receiving those signals of physical ailment or sickness or issues because it's a signal from our body that we need to slow down and we need to take action. The other thing is attitude. I challenge you to think about and a time, I'm referring to mindset and, the negative and the positive mindset that we can have from aging. And we can reframe that because it's a new opportunity, a new window. Every decade that we have in our life is a new opportunity to evolve and to grow a little bit more. I think, we take a lot for granted when we're younger, and we come with such wisdom with the years that we have that we have behind us. And attitude. I mean, I think about, now when I go into a store, into a retail shop, which is a very different environment now than was a few months ago. And, we're, asked to go in with masks. We can't see how people are truly feeling, and we can't really speak or recognize rather, the verbal or the physical cues that we once had. So, someone might be having a tough day because they don't want to be wearing their mask or working in retail where, it's a different environment. So can we change that environment? Can we change that attitude within ourselves and how we might respond to that person and make it a more positive experience, maybe with our sense of humor or with a kind word, just to help. So, this is something that we need to think about in every single day of our life as we approach this, because we have that wisdom behind us to understand that we have the power within us to change. And courage. Courage is so important because I think as we get older, a lot of us have fears of the unknown, of what we are able to do or what we're unable to do or what we're not going to be able to do. So having the courage, making a plan, and rather than reacting to what's going on, having a plan and being prepared to what we can do and how we can confront the future. And of course, education. Education is always important, having resources or knowing the resources that we have. And also being in touch with our family and our relatives and how they approached aging and what worked for them and what didn't work for them. And learning what are our ancestral issues that we had to deal with and how can we deal with them now? And how can we break some of those ancestral patterns so that we are better able to deal with the future? So this workshop is for you if you are if you're interested in really taking control of your health, if you're looking for simple tools that you can integrate on a daily basis, if you are looking to live in the presence and in the present, rather than having fear about what's about to come, that you are ready to deal with what's coming on. I know especially, this time during, quarantine and COVID, and now that we're coming out, there's a lot of sensitivity, a lot of reluctance, a lot of apprehension of change. And so I've seen, with my clients and people around me, friends and family, how people have coped, each stage in life and each problem or issue that we're confronted with, we have to learn how to deal with. And some of us are able to deal with fear or different change in situations with resilience. Some of us are deal with it with a little bit more fear and apprehension. So sometimes being prepared, having more education can help us deal with that in a better way. If you are able to stop blaming your health issues on age, then this is a good thing because you're willing to take control of the issues in your life. And the other thing too is really, are you willing to begin to put yourself first so that you can be there for the people around you? And one thing that I've really understood through this whole thing is how important self-care is, taking care of yourself so that you can better show up for those around you, so that you are not harboring issues of anger or resent or anything like that. you show up. I say this all the time in so many of my presentations, is that we have to put the oxygen mask on for ourselves. I know many of you have heard that, but it is a reality. We really need to be able to do that. So the question to ask yourself is, what will happen if you don't take action? A lot of the things that you mentioned in the beginning of our presentation, memory loss, lack of attention, aches and pains, not feeling good about ourselves, all these things are issues about, what might happen. But a lot of the things are within our control. We can control our genes. We can control some of the outcome. 90% is a pretty high percentage, if you ask me. So if you're here and you don't want to feel tired, you don't want to rely on drugs, then this is a good thing to be here. Because if you're not doing these things, then what's happening is that you're robbing time today from tomorrow. And I'm a big believer that structure creates evolution. So what I'm going to be showing you today, some of the tools that I'll be showing you are structures, tools that you can use to create evolution. Evolution means growth to the next point in your life. So instead of living in fear, instead of reacting and not being prepared, instead of not having structure, instead of not having habits that don't stick with you and not having support, these are going to be the tools that you'll be able to take forward in your life. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about my story because it kind of helps you to think about like why I'm here, what brought me here to this point of my life. So about probably 8 years ago now was when I really was faced with a time in my life where I had to make some different decisions because I was dealt with a diagnosis where I couldn't get out of bed. I was on the verge of adrenal fatigue. I had a thyroid condition and osteoarthritis, and those were diagnosed once I was able to actually get out of bed. And when I was confronted with that reality, what I was told was that I was going to have to take medication and have an operation. And I had 3 young kids at that point in my life. And I had prior to that had been part of the corporate world, worked in the corporate world for many years. But when I decided to have a family, we decided that I would only work part-time. But being of the personality and the do type of personality that I was at that time, I wanted to do everything. I wanted to not only work, but show up in the best way for my kids. And I wanted to contribute to the community. So I was going, and it turned out to backfire on me. I pushed through everything. So when I came to this reality, I realized that I didn't want to go on this medication. I decided to use complementary modalities. So different things like changing my lifestyle, using acupuncture, chiropractic, physical therapy, changing the food that I ate, taking a lot of herbal remedies, and really turning towards reducing the toxins in my life. And when I say toxins, yes, some of those were toxins that I was using on my skin, some of the toxins that I was ingesting, like the caffeine and sugar that I was living off of for a false type of energy, maybe the wine that I was drinking to wind down in my life. All of these things were toxins in my life, including some of the people in my life that I had to let go of, realizing that they were not really standing by my side for the right reasons. I never really thought that I was going to become a health coach or a yoga instructor or even an author. These were things that were evolved out of how I was able to really recover from my illness using the complementary modalities. Because at that point, I thought, if I can do this, why can't everyone else do this? So I began on my health coaching journey, and I began to serve women primarily who are suffering from stress and this go syndrome and trying to be there for everything and for everyone around them, everyone but themselves. And they weren't truly nourishing themselves. So as a result of this, they were suffering from autoimmune diseases, weight that they couldn't get rid of, and stress. And they weren't really practicing self-care practices. So I was there to support them. And then my mom passed away and I took a break. And I took a break and I wasn't sure I wanted to come back. And when I came back, I decided that not only did I want to come back to serve this community, but I also wanted a community of support behind me. And I joined a group of health coaches who were very like-minded to me, who began to support me personally and support me as professionally as well. through my yoga instructing, and through my health coaching. And so this is how I've come now to really evolve to a next level in my business. Personally, I've grown a tremendous amount, and also professionally. And I have developed these programs because I want to really help women and men who are really ready to nourish themselves and use habits to evolve themselves and create structures and have support of the dynamic community around them to really bring themselves to the next level. So that's why I have these different issues, these programs that I'm offering you now. I suffered from a lot of body image issues as I went through this as well. And I share that with you because there was a lot of emotional eating. And emotional eating, if it wasn't food, it was around wine or sugar or caffeine or other toxins or even drugs at points in my life that I was using to just kind of bar myself from feeling what I was feeling with inside. So this is why I became a health coach. And I wanted to share this with you because it allows me now to hold space for you who need healing and for you who want the tools to help propel you forward. And it helps you to find your inner voice, to find your wisdom, to help you break those ancestral patterns that you might have. I know that's helped me. And help you to break free of disease and hopefully help you age in the way that you really want to. So I'm going to start with some of these tools because I know that I'm talking a lot and I know that you want to get to the meat of the presentation. So as part of my journey, I became a yoga instructor. And during that time, I began to really visit the whole area of Ayurveda, which is the sister science to yoga. And as I stated before, I'm an integrative health coach. So what that actually means is that I've studied over 100 dietary theories. So when I work with clients, I'm really looking at each of them as an individual. I work from the concept of bioindividuality. So each of us is different. So what may work for you may not work for me, and vice versa. So we're able to accommodate that by really understanding the constitution of our body and the different type of body that we have. And Ayurvedic medicine is one of the oldest holistic healing methods, and it was developed over 3,000 years ago. And the yogis really feel that everything in life, whether or not it's dead or alive, is connected. And so that if we and our bodies and our mind and our spirit are aligned with the rhythms of nature, the rhythms of the day, the rhythms of the season, then we will have good health. And if anything disrupts that or is off balance, then that's when we begin to go into the whole area of chronic illness. So it's really based on a more preventative way. And I share with you this image because it takes into account the different types of constitutions and the body types that we have. So when we look at, say, Pitta, this is during the middle time of the day or the middle time of the night. There's a lot of fire around that, people that are very driven and very focused. And this is also corresponding to a time in the day. So you'll find sometimes maybe your best concentration might be from like 10 a.m. in the morning until 2 p.m. in the afternoon. This is actually the best time to eat your largest meal because your digestive fire is at its height. You'll sometimes find out too that at night, sometimes people get that second wind that they talk about. So, that second wind, really you want to really, because this is your body's ability to digest at its best time and rest and relax, you really want to be asleep at this time because you don't want to reignite that fire. You want to allow your body to rest and digest and really go through what happened during the day and allow your body just to absorb that while it's sleeping. Then we come into the Vata time. And so this is either 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. in the evening or 2 a.m. in the morning until 2 p.m. in the afternoon until 6 p.m. in the evening and 2 a.m. And so this is kind of like a time where this is a good time to be creative. This might be a time like when you're sleeping and you're dreaming. So, this is all the elements here are air and ether. And it's kind of like something that has a lot of energy and a lot of moving energy. So when I think about my constitution specifically is Vata Pitta with a little bit of Kapha. Kapha is more strong and solid and a little bit slower moving energy, but very grounded. And so this is 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. or 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. So this, there's a whole mindset around this, but I bring this to your attention because it is a big part of Ayurveda. And if we're living in the rhythms, then this helps us. And a lot of the habits that I'm going to be sharing with you today are based on this, the rhythms of Ayurveda and the rhythms of the constitutions of our body. And when we understand the constitution of your body, we're better able to understand how we integrate these rhythms into our body. And I did touch on that in our workshop a couple of weeks ago. So if you're interested a little bit more in how to understand that, I'm happy to share that with you. If you want to put your email in the chat box beside us, then I'll be happy to email that link to you. So let's get into the meat of it now, because I'm sure that this is what you're all really waiting for. So let's talk a little bit about the 10 habits. And some of these things you might have heard of before. And you might say, okay, well, I do some of these, I go to bed early. But the question I have for you as we go through this presentation is, are you consistent with these? And have you created these structures in your life so that you are evolving and moving and decreasing the stress in your life, so that your body knows what to expect? And the question I also ask you as we go through this is, is feeling good enough? Or do you want to feel better? Do you want to feel amazing? So before I just go into this, because there's one thing that I actually forgot, so I want you to think about as I go through these, think about your future self. Think about how you want to be in 10 years. Think about how you want to feel in 10 years or 20 years or whatever that time span may be. And just give you a moment to think about that. So keep that in mind as we go through this. So one of the big things that, I started with is an earlier, later dinner. And so what does that actually mean? So earlier, later dinner is really, I think about it, actually, it's quite interesting. I had an opportunity when I was younger to live and work in Mexico and Spain. And any of you who are familiar with those cultures, you'll know that they have their largest meal in the middle of the day. And I know that even as a kid, I have many relatives in Mexico. We used to have our largest meal in the day, and everyone would come back from work. My aunt would make these huge meals. We'd have this wonderful meal in the middle of the day. And then, we wouldn't have something until, later on, and it was nice. Everyone would come together, but we had our main meal in the day. And if you refer back to that image that I was sharing with you, which was the pizza, where our digestive fire is in the middle of the day, that's when we have our largest meal. It allows our body to properly digest. It's when our agni, or our digestive fire, is at its peak. And so we want to try and spark that. So that's a really important thing, to try and have a larger meal in the middle of the day, especially as we're getting older. I'm sure that some of you have found, if you have a heavy meal before you go to bed, how do you feel the next day? Do you sleep really well? Maybe you're waking up in the middle of the night. Maybe you're waking up at that 2 o'clock point, that 3 a.m. point. I'm sure there's many of you that might feel that way. And the way that you're eating, the rhythms that you're eating, might be having an effect on that. So one of the things you might want to try is having a larger meal in the middle of the day. The next thing is early to bed. And some of you might think, well, this is really boring, or I get my second wind, at 11 o'clock at night, and that's when I get the most of my work done. And I challenge you to kind of think about how you can readjust your schedule to begin to shift your bedtime back to an earlier time, maybe to 15 minutes each night, coming to early to bed. And you'll find that your body will adapt to this very well. I'm in bed by 10 o'clock most nights. It might sound boring, and I'm not doing it every night. I'm not saying you have to do it on the weekends as well. We have time that we want to spend with friends and family and honor that. But if you're doing this and your intent is there for most of the time, it's probably a good thing. So try reverse engineering your thing. Unplug, unwind. It's important. Start the day right. Well, I can't tell you how many people come to me with constipation issues, especially as we age. Or hormonal issues, in fact. Hormones play a fact, into this. We have to think about how we're starting that day. Are we waking up and hydrating and pooping? When we're eliminating our poop, in the first thing in the morning, we are actually opening up our body for new energy. that being either food or new energy for the day. Um, just really being able to sit in a time and just take in the morning. And just having that time for yourself, that quiet time in the morning is also important. So that's part of this whole start the day routine. So starting the day with your lemon water, eliminating with your poop, and just getting everything out. And I have many ways that I go about doing that with people, bit by bit. It's important that we have that. And then just enjoying a little bit of quiet time to take in the day. Just settling in, what are our intentions for the day? How are we going to feel about the day? And really setting that mindset for ourselves. The other thing that's really important is, some of you had mentioned about memory issues or focus issues. Um, Really having 20 minutes of a body breath practice before breakfast really helps us to enhance that focus and our memory for the day. Having that simple movement, and it can be any type of movement. It could be running, it could be walking, it could be breath body practices from doing, a few sun salutations. If we're doing this for 20 minutes, we're allowing our body and our mind and our breath to come into synchronicity so that we can create focus for our day. And we're also sparking our digestive fire as well, and bringing up that lower energy that we're waking up in the morning with, that kapha energy, and the 6 a.m. in the morning where it's a slow energy. We're beginning to lift that up to bring it more into that pitta energy, because the idea is that we want to balance all of those energies together. So, and so fun. I mean, if you have kids and you're unable to do that, then take them outside with you, throw the ball around, maybe do a little bit of wrestling, play with your dog. These are all things that you can do to kind of get your body movement. So, there's different ways. You can be very inventive about it. You can change it around. It doesn't have to be the same thing every single day. The other thing is eating a plant-based diet. So, some of you might do this. I mean, this varies from person to person. Not everyone wants to have a plant-based diet. I still, I was a vegetarian years ago. I've practiced being a vegan. For me, I know that meat is an important part of my diet. It's not a huge part of my diet. I have, probably beef maybe like once every couple of weeks, but I do have chicken and I do like fish. Not a lot, but I do have a lot of pulses in my diet. But I know that it's something that I don't have every single day, but it's something that I do need. And just based off of my history and understanding what's going on with my body, I know. So everybody's different. But when I think about a plant-based diet, we hear so much more about superfoods these days. And so everyone's rushing to buy kale or the superfood greens, or spending $20 on a can of greens, and then buying all these medicinal mushrooms and all. And let me tell you, I support a lot of these things, but we also have things in our own backyard. If we're not using pesticides, there's many wild plants that we can just pick from our garden. We can dry in our kitchen, either using a dehydrator or an oven, and we can pulsate and then use in soups and use in teas and use in smoothies in order to really bring more greens and natural. I mean, we have these, plants in our own backyard that we can use and actually are very medicinal for our body. So there's other ways to get this in, and that's not really expensive. You're not having to throw out tons and tons of money. So there's ways to do that. So just bringing that to your attention. One thing that I really found, and one of the things that came up here was, the aches and pains that we might be experiencing as we get older. And self-massage, I think, is really key here. Our hands are very healing. And in Ayurvedic medicine, we think about the oils that they have, and the oils that they use are a form of love. And our hands are self-healing. And when we know how to touch our body, we can heal our body in a very different way. And I remember the first time I had an Ayurvedic massage, and they're like slathering all this oil over my body. And I thought, oh my God, this is crazy. But I did this, for, over a few occasions, and I really started to feel a big difference in my body. But you don't have to go out and have someone do this for you. You can do it for yourself. And there's different oils that are very natural, like almond oils and coconut oils, olive oils, safflower oils, really depending upon your constitution. Again, your body type will determine the oils that are best for you. And there's different practices in how you go about doing this. And for instance, if you're looking to ground yourself a little bit more, we start with the head and massaging the oils into your head and coming down through the face and through the neck and the body and going through. And many of you know the fascia runs from our brain all the way down to our feet. So what we're doing, and when we're massaging our body, we're healing our body, responding to our body, getting into those joints. And rather than perceiving an ache and pain as a negative thing in our body, we can look at it as, oh, my knee needs a little bit more attention today, so I need to give it a little bit more love. And our bodies respond to the way that we talk to them and the words that we use. So it's important to have more of a positive mindset when we're dealing with that. So this really, I have always done self-massage, but I really honed into this on a much bigger way during quarantine, probably because I had a little bit more time. Prior to that, I was probably doing it 3 or 4 times a week. But it's something that you can do before you get in the shower, just a quick massage, or you can do it in the shower, as long as you're not, make sure you wash your feet off so you don't slip out of the shower. But, turn the water off and use the oils and massage them into the body, especially the areas. And I found that this has really been very helpful for me. Some of you who know me know I've had this ongoing shoulder issue for, about a year now, and I've had to stop playing tennis, which I'm not very happy about. But, I'm still practicing yoga and I'm still strengthening it, but I've really helped to alleviate a lot of the issues around that doing this. So this is something that I feel that is really important. Sitting in silence. We've got so much craziness going on in our life today. With technology, being bombarded by social media and the news, and even just our friends and family's words of advice and concern, we can become very overwhelmed with what's going on. So taking a few moments just to sit in silence, and that can be at the beginning of the day or the end of the day. And then when you're ready, you can upgrade that to meditation. Many times when I share meditation with people, people are a little nervous about that and how they might integrate it, or feel that they're unable to participate in something like that because their mind is constantly going. But when we begin to slowly adapt this or adopt a practice like this, we can slowly evolve it and bring it up to another level. But in doing this, it just allows us to unplug and allow us to settle into our own inner voice, and listen to our own wisdom, because so many times we're looking for the answers from other people. And I think that we are neglecting, and we're not necessarily always taught that we can listen to our own voice about our inner wisdom and the choices and the voice that we have that's speaking to us inside. So very important. Healthier eating guidelines. A little bit about this is, it goes back to the diagram that I was telling you about and sharing with you, and a little bit about rhythmic eating. But the one thing, and the times of the day that we eat. So, when we get up in the morning, how much are we eating? Are we just breaking our fast? So we really want to just have enough in the morning just to break the fast that we had from the night before, so that we're still able to be hungry around noontime, 1 o'clock, so that we can really have that full meal there. And one of the things that, we want to think about is how we're eating. Because sometimes when we're eating every 2-3 hours, we're not necessarily giving our body the full ability to digest the food that we have within our body. And if we're not doing that, we can be creating unnecessary toxins within our body. So an example that I like to or analogy that I like to give that, or give, is a pot of rice. If you're making a pot of rice and you've boiled the water and you've boiled the rice and it's starting to cook and it's almost done, think about if you threw in another cup of rice and a little bit more water, what's going to happen to everything below? Well, it's going to be kind of gooky and mucky and icky. And that's actually what's happening to the food in your body. You're not giving your body the ability to fully digest the food and then release it to your digestive system if you're adding more food and fuel to the fire. So that can really result in digestive issues, in terms of how we release different enzymes for digestion in our body. So it can result in a lot of digestive distress. So you want to think about that and be in tune with your body. and how you're feeling, and whether or not the hunger signals that you're having in between your meals are really signals of hunger. And if they are, then maybe questioning the types of food that you're having at those meals, making sure that you're eating, good plants, good fruits, and vegetables during that time that are truly nourishing your body, or are you eating junk just to satiate something, an emotion that you might be feeling, whether or not that is unhappiness or boredom or whatever that might be. So always, it comes back to listening to your inner voice and what you really want. Coming to your senses. So this is where I'm going to talk a little bit more about the face care and the natural care, because I know that some of you had wanted me to touch on that. But what I wanted to really talk about here are our senses, that we really need to take care of them. So what are our senses? Our senses are our eyes, which allow us to see, our nose that allows us to smell, our skin that allows us to touch, our tongue that allows us to taste, and our ears that allow us to hear. So these are our senses, and we really need to take care of them. And we're always overwhelmed with toxins from our environment, whether or not we're breathing them in and smelling them in, breathing them in, or even when we are just sitting at the computer or looking at our phone, we have all the radiation and the blue light that's emanating from all of those. So we have to allow, or even if we're in, a busy environment, listening to all the different noises that are coming in, there's a lot of things that are coming at our body at one time, and we're not always able to digest that fully. So it's important that we honor our senses and take care of them, and take care of our skin, especially because that is our biggest organ. So for a few years now, I've been really experimenting with a lot more natural remedies. I decided, there was one point in my life where I was actually using Botox, and I no longer do that. And, it was a point in my life where I was still so concerned about my body image and the way that I was perceived from about society, and that I didn't want to look as if I was getting old. And I realized that, my wrinkles now are part of me. They show my wisdom, they show my age. But I know too that I have the tools to really take care of myself. And, all from a natural perspective. Every night before I go to bed, and you may laugh at this, but I use castor oil and frankincense oil on my face. The oil massages that I give myself are helping to nourish my body. And when I use the oils before I get into the shower and I wash my body, there's no need for me to moisturize afterwards because I have that in my body. I use astringents, like lemon juice and aloe vera to really heal my skin. So I have different remedies that I've used. If you were in my latest Facebook, or actually it wasn't in Facebook, I think. I don't know if I actually posted this. It was in one of my newsletters that I sent out, where I use coconut milk. It's like a great sun skincare pack where I combine castor oil, avocado, and coconut oil, and I mix that all together and put it on my face. Leave it on for a few minutes to allow it to set. I have lots of different remedies that I've been using, and I'm really encouraging my teenagers to use these right now too, because there's, again, succumbing to what society is telling us is better for our face, taking advantage, of our self-doubt, and buying the things and spending hundreds of dollars on these creams when we really don't know, we don't really need those. The other thing is really hydrating your body. That's so important in our life. And I just realized 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I forgot number 10, which is living life in ease. And I'll get to that as well. But so these are just some of the tips that I have, and I have more. Each of these, I could spend a couple of hours each of these topics speaking to you on. So it's hard to really get into the nitty gritty. This is more surface at this point. But the last one is choosing an easeful life, easeful living over stress. So, that comes to dealing with how you actually deal with stress. Making sure that you're getting plenty of rest, that if you are dealing with a stressful situation, that you have a choice. How are you going to deal with that? Are you going to react and be kind of crazy about it? Or are you going to just kind of take that moment in and say, okay, let me think. I have a choice of either reacting and becoming maybe angry or frantic, or am I just going to take it in and question, why is this moment here and what do I need to do with it? And what is this moment telling me? Breathing and meditating, all help us to deal with life in a more calm and effective way. I'm sure that each of you that participated in the um, breathing exercise that we did in the beginning probably felt a little bit more at ease and maybe more present with us here in this community as we're listening to this presentation just after breathing a few moments. It's very important. So making sure these are just some of the things that I encourage you to try and incorporate every day. Of course, I can't help you, integrate all of these into your life right now. So what I wanted to share with you is we're going to go into Q&A in just a moment, but I'm offering each and every one of you over the next week the ability to book a health strategy session with me. It's a value of over $150. And this is an opportunity for you to really come to terms with what's needed for you to create a breakthrough for your health. And it's not a sales strategy or a sales scheme in any way whatsoever. It's really just an opportunity for you to experience deep listening with me and to find solutions to help you with your specific issues. And if you're interested, you can take a screenshot and you can apply to do this with me. There's no judgment, no hard sells. But if you're really sick and tired of thinking about how you're going to deal with aging, if you're really thinking about how you can take control of your health and you really want real life solutions on how to do this, then I challenge you now to take that into your hands and take this opportunity to come to terms with what it is and how you can create solutions for the next step in your life. So it's been a pleasure. This is an opportunity for you. I would love to share this opportunity with you and now take an opportunity to open it up for any questions that you might have. I hope that this has been informative to you. So you can either share your question in the chat, or if you prefer to unmute and share your question, I'm happy to address that. And if I can't address the question, I am happy to find an answer for you eventually. Any questions? Yes, no? You don't have to be shy. Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for coming. Any questions? Okay. All right. So if there's no questions, I want to say thank you for coming. And again, if you want to take advantage of the strategy session, please email me or you can sign up in the link that I gave you. I hope that this has been helpful for you and given you some food for thought in how you want to evolve into the next decade of your life. Thank you for joining me. Namaste. Be well. Bye. You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you.